I thought I knew everything I needed to know to be healthy. I thought I knew what I needed to eat. I was wrong. I thought I knew how often I needed to eat. I was wrong. I thought I knew about food quality. I was wrong. Like, the food that I was eating and the quality of the food that I was eating was actually very, very poor. And I mean, I used to eat 2 to 3 times a day, maybe even 4 or 5, depending if I had snacks or not, versus today I eat once a day. Clearly, what I thought I understood about eating and food was incorrect. But add to that I thought it was important and critical to exercise in order to lose weight. I was wrong. I lost all of the weight that I lost without exercising at all. Now, if you remember correctly, I started off with a hip issue. Even if I wanted to exercise back then, I wasn't able. I couldn't even step up on a sidewalk, much less do vigorous exercise. The only thing that I did a little bit of during the period of time that I lost weight was walking. And considering that I had done much more strenuous things to lose weight in my history, I know for a fact that it wasn't the walking, because for 6 to 7 months before I actually started losing the weight, I had been walking every day religiously because of my hip and my pain in my hip, trying to help myself to be able to sit like what I'm doing right now so that I could work. And the only thing it gave me was relief to be able to sit, but my weight remained stable the entire time. I had actually given up on losing weight. Nothing had worked before, and I didn't see any good reason why anything would start to work at that stage in my life. But I had a goal: solve my hip, the pain that I was living. So, knowledge is the key to every breakthrough in history. We learn something and things change. And what did I learn that changed the direction of my life? I learned sugar causes inflammation. My hip was inflamed and sugar was contributing to it staying inflamed. That pain that I was living every single day was amplified because of the garbage I was eating. I learned that sugar causes weight gain. I learned that after the fact, but it still helped me to understand that there was no escaping that if I eat sugar, some of that sugar was going to be stored as fat, even if I ate less than 20 grams of carb per day. So pointing that out, I want everyone to think about that. Even if you eat a very small amount of sugar, some of it gets stored. And the reason for that is that sugar is toxic. So sugar gets stored because if it's more than 5 grams of sugar in your bloodstream at any point in time, that's very dangerous. Now, if I eat anywhere up to 5 grams in, like, even if I eat 1 gram, when I eat that 1 gram of sugar, since I already have 5 grams in my blood, because that's what my body keeps me at, I've already pushed my body beyond, and some of that's going to get stored. Some of it's going to get used, and as much as possible, my body's going to try to get rid of it, because our body has multiple systems to manage sugar. There's storage, there's use, and there's elimination. And they're always at work trying to see how can it keep us in a good place, because we are eating sugar despite not needing to eat sugar, because our body makes sugar, and it makes all the sugar that you need. Now, what our body can't push through us, so for elimination, it uses as energy and stores away as fat. So learning that sugar was as much of a toxin in my body as alcohol or cocaine helped me to change my beliefs about sugar being harmless. Because all of a sudden I realized that when I was a kid, and I think back on like my behavior, when I was in the kitchen searching for junk food. Now, my parents didn't buy junk food when I was a kid. Being from the Caribbean and, growing up in the islands, it's not about junk. It's about eating healthy food, keeping yourself alive. There's not money to be wasted on foolishness. So we didn't snack and do desserts in our household when I was growing up, because my parents didn't see that as something that was important to do. So we ate food, and we were thankful that we had food to eat. And I'm actually very grateful to my parents for that, because that beginning did keep the amount of junk food that I was eating low for the beginning of my life. Now, of course, school did impact that, because once I started to go to school and I had friends who had, cookies and chocolate bars and all this junk, and I did get exposed to that. But on my day to day at home, I still had my dose of sugar. So I'm not blaming my friends. I had rice and potatoes and pasta and sandwiches I was having for lunch and breakfast. Sometimes I'd have bread with my breakfast. And of course there was like the cereal that I had for breakfast. So there was lots of occasions in my house that I was eating sugar. And this constant scavenger hunt that I ended up on once these extra kind of fun sugars got added to the mix turned my life into this like need to quench this. I need some sugary something, right? And obviously as I got older and I had more access, because you get an allowance and now you can buy things at school and at the corner store and whatever, and all of a sudden on my own I was buying junk food. And it was years of poor eating that followed. More junk was added to my daily routine. And I remember that there was a period of years in my life, where if I didn't have a chocolate bar, that was strange. So chocolate's my thing, right? I love chocolate. And I ended up eating it on a daily basis for many, many years. And that toxicity of sugar, like alcohol, has an excitatory effect on the brain, causing the release of dopamine and other neurotransmitters that cause you to want to have more and more and more. So it's this weird thing, right? Because our body makes sugar, but it makes it in such small amounts that it's manageable and it gets the job done, which is quick energy that we need to do certain things. But when we have it in excess, it touches so many different processes, because it's also part of our system for taking care of ourselves and repairing the system when something goes wrong. If you break something, cut something, hurt something in your body, sugar gets deployed. If you're stressing and worried, sugar gets deployed. So there's lots of reasons and times where our body is using sugar to help us to manage things, and mood being one of them, and that the release of some sugar can be good for us on certain occasions, but then if we're having it all the time, it can also become very negative. So that I learned that I was addicted was the biggest learning that changed my commitment to healthy living, because I'm not supposed to be addicted to, first of all, I didn't go through life trying to be addicted to anything. I went through my entire life trying to never be addicted to anything. And that's a punch in the face to find out that you do all this work to not be addicted to anything, and then find out, and things that I could. I'm not addicted to cigarettes. I'm not addicted to alcohol. I'm not addicted to any other drug and haven't tried any other drug. I made a conscious decision to keep myself away from things that were addictive, to find out that food companies have been lying to us about the fact that, and this food companies, it's the government, it's whoever, that when they say that we need to eat carbohydrates, that's a lie. Our body makes all that we need. So the fact that this information is being pushed towards us as something we need, sugar is a necessary something for us to eat, and then it keeps us all in a position where we are slaves to sugar, was very frustrating for me to learn, because all of a sudden my healthy way of living, my desire to be an addiction-free person, was no longer the case. And I used to laughingly and jokingly say, I'm a chocoholic, until I actually now understand that I really was addicted to chocolate and sweets and bread and pasta and rice and all these things that used to make me fidgety at night, because I needed to have that hit. Right? And I can't be addicted to something if I'm trying to help other people manage their life and their addictions. And I need to keep myself on track. What are you that's incompatible with being an addict? Are you a celebrity? Are you a pastor? Are you a teacher? Are you a doctor? Are you a parent? Do you have anybody relying on you? And understand that if I have people relying on me, but I'm addicted to something and I'm not doing anything to fix that, I lose some credibility. So I took the steps I needed to take to get that under control. I am no longer addicted to sugar. It's not easy, right? Because you let it in and it grabs you again. You do have to be on top of things. But Wellness Warriors, I want you to understand that better to be on top of things and live your life in a way that you're not creating internal damage that's going to harm you. It could be a week down the road. It could be a year. It could be 15 years. But when it hits, like how my hip hit, it destroys everything. Your health is the most important thing that you have. So let's fight for it. So another long comment of the day today. And if you want to be in the comment of the day, all you need to do is post a relevant comment and I will read them out like this. So Garbage Man says, yeah, that's more or less what I decided to do. I first added fat and removed the carbs, and then I learned about food quality beyond macros. Though I had already been watching Dr. Berg's videos before I went keto, it was serendipitous that when I was diagnosed diabetic, I had already seen his channel regularly. As I went along, I learned about fasting and exercise in context in no particular order. So I quickly learned that over and above macros, food quality and timing mattered. If anything would have helped when I started, it would have been a very short and sweet start here page or video. It would have said something like, prioritize protein, how much is right for you, lower your carbs, and not adding sugar, starch, or grains. Eat more fat to substitute for the energy that was in the carbs. Throw out any seed oils and replace with healthy oils. Learn more about food quality, learn more about fasting, learn more about exercise. Each one of the first 4 steps should have more info to take the audience down the rabbit hole as far as comfortable for the audience member at that time. These more info options would basically be what's in the learn more about food quality deep dive. And I've probably left stuff out, but that's how I would expect the journey to be logically structured out. You can't do it all at once, so start with, in my opinion, the first 4. The really confusing part for most people would be preconceptions of what's healthy, like healthy heart oils, healthy fruits and grains, etc. They really should probably be mentioned up front and the audience encouraged to deep dive into those topics as time and effort permits. It would be a shame to buy a bunch of stuff and find out you bought unhealthy stuff after you've bought it. That would probably be a good reason for an overview up front. My ultimate guide would probably be a web page with the above section that has an introductory video and links on each, or as necessary, pages with links to videos. I'm sure many content creators have wrestled with this. That's why personal coaching is so much more effective. It would be awesome to develop some public domain courseware. From what I can tell, only intellectual property issues would spoil it. And what I want to say to that is that he talked about grains and fruits, and I feel like that's something that I didn't mention in this video, but I will just point out that fruit was another huge learning curve for me, because we've all heard about the fact that high fructose corn syrup is dangerous, unhealthy, we should stay away from it like the plague. But then we ignore the fact that high fructose corn syrup is anything that's around a 50-50 glucose fructose. And interestingly, that's what sugar is 50-50 glucose fructose, but it's also like the makeup of most fruit is 50-50. So we tell people to run away from high fructose corn syrup, but then encourage them to eat fruit, which has the same makeup. And I feel like we are mistaken in our understanding about whether or not fruit is healthy, obviously. I have videos on that if you want to check those out. So I'm just pointing it out here that was another thing that I learned in my stay away from sugar. I already didn't like fruit, and it just reinforced that I don't need to make myself like fruit. But I used to force myself to eat fruit, and I then stopped doing that. Wellness Warriors, healthy. Prioritize health over the taste of food. That's what you need to do to make sure that you stay on track. Keep yourself in the best possible position to have a long, healthy life. Love making these videos for you guys. Talk to you next week.